BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, I'm Thomas Duncan and this is the Scottish Football Podcast, kickstarting your week with the final words on the weekend's action. Here's what's coming up.
Our performance in the first half is good. That isn't a team that's given up. I really don't believe that's the case, but I'm realistic to understand that each week that passes the pressure builds. It's a thing you don't get now, it's time.
What next for Hearts after Steven Naismith is sacked? Also,
comeback complete from Celtic!
Relief for Celtic as they eventually overcome Falkirk. And
Dessers is in the middle, goal! Side, I think. Flag stays down as Dessers connects beautifully with the ball into the middle.
After 17 goals and plenty of drama across the 4 League Cup quarter-finals this weekend, we've reaction to the semi-final draw.
The Scottish Football Podcast.
So joining me on this Sunday evening is Simon Donnelly, the former Celtic player, and Ryan Stevenson, formerly of Hearts, among other clubs. Welcome, guys. There's so much to get stuck into this weekend, but first of all, I'm going to ask you for a moment of the weekend from Scottish football, and seeing as it's your debut, Simon, on this podcast, you can go first. Do the honours, please. Your moment of the weekend.
Moment of the weekend for me, up until halfway through that second half at Celtic today, it was going to be Nicky Clark's 2 free kicks for me and Steve-O's old club, St Johnstone. But I think Nicholas Kuhn coming off the bench today at Celtic Park, as he touched on there.
McGregor, pass block, drops to Kuhn, who lashes it into the bottom corner. A second for Nicholas Kuhn, and it feels rather unjust for everything Falkirk have put into the game.
Celtic were 2-1 behind at the time, and he got 2 assists and 2 goals in albeit about 15 minutes, and it's just epitomised his start to the season. So that's my moment of the weekend.
Excellent choice, Ryan. What about you?
Yeah, I'm going to go for the 97th minute equaliser for Ross County against St Johnstone.
County load the box. Greaves sends it in. Header and into the bottom corner! County have done it! And it's a keel right again for the Staggies! What a moment in Dingwall! Drama at the death as this thriller comes to a conclusion.
I just think there's nothing better than when you score. I have to equalise or win a game that late in the game. It feels like, obviously it'll feel like a winner for Ross County, but to score that late on.
I feel it's absolutely criminal that Nicky Clark has scored 2 free kicks and he's not got anyone's moment of the weekend.
As I said, I was going to stick him in. He was a Celtic until this afternoon. He was almost identical, both free kicks.
I'll give him my moment of the weekend. It was brilliant. It was a game I covered. It was brilliant. The second one was even better than the first. Absolutely fantastic. Right, so much to get through, but before we get into the meat of this podcast, first let's whiz through the latest Scottish football headlines. Steven Naismith has been sacked by Hearts. The decision to relieve him of his duties came after they lost 2-1 to St Mirren in Paisley on Saturday, their 8th defeat in a row. B-team coach Liam Fox will oversee first-team duties until a replacement is found. Celtic have been drawn against Aberdeen, while Rangers will face Motherwell in the Premier Sports Cup semi-finals. The draw took place on Sunday evening after an action-packed weekend. Motherwell overcame Dundee United 2-1 on Friday thanks to a last-minute Lennon Miller penalty. Rangers beat Dundee 3-0. Aberdeen defeated Spartans 4-0. Celtic eventually ran out 5-2 winners at home to Falkirk. Meanwhile, in the Premiership, Ross County and managerless St Johnstone drew 3-3, while Celtic beat Ukrainian side Vorskla Poltava 1-0 in the first leg of their Women's Champions League playoff tie.
The Scottish Football Podcast.
Okay, lots to get into, but we'll get to the league action shortly. But I think we need to start with the news that broke early afternoon on Sunday, the news that we just touched on, that Steven Naismith has been sacked by Hearts. Ryan, I think it's fair to say we know why Steven Naismith has been sacked. 8 straight defeats, just 3 goals scored, bottom of the league. Take your pick of the stats. It's all about results at the end of the day. But why do you think it's come to this for Steven Naismith? What have been the issues for him this season?
The glaring one is that we have one guy who can score goals and other than that, we don't. Basically, I think I said it last year in my column in the paper that at Christmas time, I think Lawrence sat on 19 goals. The closest to him was 3, which was own goals. So there and then there's a glaringly obvious, massive hole behind that one player. And Hearts done nothing to sort it. Joe Savage left halfway through a transfer window. The club allowed that to happen. Ultimately, the results haven't been as good, and I don't think we've been playing as well. And I don't think the DNA of Hearts was getting played the way Naisy was wanting to play out for the back, especially at Tynecastle. I just think that the club is a go and get at them sort of club. But I don't really blame Naisy. Naisy had to go because of the results, but I blame the board, mate. I think so many questions need answered from the board.
Yeah, in terms of just the recruitment, it seemed to be they brought a lot of players in, and on paper you maybe went, Blair Spittle, Jan Danda, Gerald Taylor, etc. These are players with good pedigree, but perhaps they weren't, or all too similar in similar positions. Is it not what Hearts actually needed? Is that kind of one of the roots of the problem?
Listen, we needed 2 strikers in that window. You cannot ask one guy to score you 33 goals one year and do the same again next year. It is, unless you're Ronaldo or Messi, it's pretty much impossible. And that's basically what we did. And I would love answers of who made that decision? Who made that decision to not sign any other strikers? Who made that decision not to look at any other strikers? Because ultimately it has to fall to the board. They make these big decisions. As I said, they let Joe Savage go halfway through a window. There's just so many questions that maybe we could be on this podcast all night and I could rant and rave about Hearts right now. But I just think there's so many big holes, and it's glaringly obvious now that Lawrence isn't scoring goals, that the holes are there.
Yeah, Ryan, obviously really passionate there, Simon. In terms of Steven Naismith, do you feel sorry for him? Obviously, Ryan's touching on issues with the recruitment, behind the scenes, 8 games, 8 defeats in a row, but it is so early in the season, and he did turn it around last season and got Hearts to 3rd ultimately. Now, lots of fans will touch on maybe the style of play wasn't what they would want, or Lawrence Shanklin carried them, etc. But he did get Hearts to 3rd. So, do you feel sorry for him that it's come to this so soon into his 2nd spell in charge? Could he have done more?
Yeah, listen, I do. You don't like to see anybody losing their job, but as Steve said there, it's a cutthroat business, and results dictate. To have those sort of stats at the start of this season. It's not good reading, but just some of the players that you touched on there, I scribbled down the likes of Blair Spittle at Dundee United, Danda, Penrice. I thought these were good acquisitions, and it's a surprisingly disappointing start to the season for Hearts. It's ultimately cost Naisy his job. Steve-O's got his finger on the pulse, in terms of what's happening behind the scenes at Hearts. But certainly for them to be at this stage of the season at the bottom of the table, it's not good enough for a team like Hearts. You're quite right there that they done well last year to get to 3rd place, and I tipped them for 3rd this year. Obviously Aberdeen have started really well. But yeah, nobody likes to see anybody losing their job. But when I seen the result yesterday and I seen his interview after the game, I thought, I wouldn't be surprised if something happened this week.
Do you know what the crazy thing is? They gave him and his backroom staff a new deal 44 days ago after drawing against Rangers. It's absolutely incredible. That beggars belief.
Ryan, obviously you've touched on it with the behind the scenes stuff. Ultimately then, what type of manager do you think Hearts should be looking for? And if there are issues behind the scenes, does it matter what kind of manager they get? Do they need to sort that first? Do they need to get things in a row before they actually go and appoint a manager and decide what they want to be as a club? Is that the main priority?
Well, I think they're now left with a mammoth job of getting the right person in, and only they'll know behind the scenes what direction they want to take the club in. My biggest pet peeve right now is no one from the club has actually came out on social media, through the Hearts website, sat down and said, listen, this is the reason why we've done X, Y and Z, because then fans can sit and say, right, okay, we can process it all, we can try and understand it, but nobody knows anything about anything. As I said, we gave Naisy a new deal 44 days ago. Things weren't great last year near the tail end of the season. I mean, that's 14 games, 1-1. Coming into a new season, we draw against Rangers, right, we'll give them a new deal, so they're obviously going to stick by him. 44 days later, we sack him. They've had the international window there when we all kind of knew going to Parkhead he was a dead man walking. Have they spent that 2 weeks behind the scenes trying to put a list together? Nobody knows, because they'll not come out and say. Liam Fox has been put in charge because obviously I think he's got all the qualifications for managing in Europe, because we have to tick all the boxes with that. Gary Locke's there. Can we bring him in maybe? It's going to get the fans on side. The fans are dying for something just to hold on to. And these guys behind the scenes, the club isn't in turmoil on a financial level or anything like that. My feeling is these guys behind the scenes who are running the club aren't running it well enough. And the manager gets the sack. Why do the guys who are making the decisions, the big decisions, why do they not get the sack?
Let's go to Celtic Park. I'm not long back from there, where I watched a thoroughly entertaining League Cup quarter-final, Simon, and it feels a bit weird because Celtic have won by 3 goals and they've scored 5, but I came away with the overriding thing. I don't know about you, I've just been really impressed with Falkirk, really.
Yeah, very impressed. To have the courage, I mean, I cover a lot of the Celtic games, as you know, to have the courage and come and, try and implement their football on Celtic, you've got to give them a lot of credit. And that first half posed a lot of problems. Got the 2 goals, went in at half-time, 2-1 up.
Aguiman down the right-hand side of the box, he floats it in. Chance. Yates has made the run with the header, and he finds the bottom corner! Another phenomenal moment for Falkirk as Finn Yates heads them back into the lead. Celtic troop back to the halfway line. They can't believe what they're watching.
But it was the bravery and how to try and play football. It's the way I like to see football being played. I hate teams coming and sitting in and try to park the bus, so to speak. Falkirk didn't do that today. Ultimately, the quality shines through in the second half. Brendan can look to his bench and bring on 3 or 4 guys who you would regard as first team starters normally. He'd made a few changes to try and blood a few new faces in this afternoon. I think it's a big compliment to Falkirk that, those 4 guys came on after an hour and were needed. They were very much needed at the time. So, yeah, it was an entertaining game. Obviously, from my perspective, I'm happy Celtic came through in the end, but you've got to give a lot of credit to Falkirk, and they're sitting there, is it 5 out of 5 in the Championship? I mean, Scott Brown's got air looking strong, but Falkirk must have a right chance this season if they can perform like that.
Yeah, John McGlynn are absolutely very proud of his players for the performance they put in, and they did really have a go. It was great to watch. But Simon, from a Celtic point of view, Brendan Rodgers makes 8 changes. What did he learn about the guys who came in, the likes of Bayo on his debut, Trusty, Lewis Palmer's not played much this season. Did he learn anything other than maybe confirming the fact that he knows what his strongest 11 is already? Yeah,
maybe that at the moment. I think these guys have not had a lot of game time. Trusty came off the bench in the Champions League game the other night. That was his first look at it. Liam Scales has played really well at that position, as has Greg Taylor at left back, with Vala coming in today. I think it would probably just emphasise at the moment where Celtic are, which is a good place. I think the guys who have got the jersey will keep the jersey at the moment, out with, albeit he's making changes today. It was still the quarter final of the Cup, but I think he took the opportunity to rest a couple with knocks and try and blood a few boys, but I think they'll need a wee bit more game time. I don't think anybody really that came in that hadn't started will push for the next game. I think it'll be back to normal service at St Johnstone next week.
And Ryan, I know you watch a lot of the Championship. I guess you probably weren't surprised with what you saw from Falkirk, and to be fair to John McGlynn, he said all week, we're not going to come and sit in, and it's one thing to say it, but to actually go and execute it and be 2-1 up against Celtic with 70 minutes on the clock is impressive. I suppose the only frustration was those 2 goals from Ida in the space of 2 minutes. You just switch off after the equaliser, and that was the tie basically done at that point, and that's the only frustration really.
Yeah, listen, I think Simon said there, I think when you get to 60, 70 minutes against Celtic, that they've got quality that can come on, at any time they've got quality that can cut you open. I think, listen, I had John McGlynn at heart, and I love John, and he is meticulous in absolutely everything he does. He has a way that he looks at football, the way that he understands football, and he will not change for anything. And it is refreshing to see the fact that Falkirk have came up through the divisions, they've stuck with them. I mean, the job that he's doing at Falkirk right now, on a limited budget as well, to be sitting where they are in the Championship, to go to Parkhead, put in a performance like that, the belief that club has just now, It's brilliant to see. And that all comes from him, because I know what he's like day in, day out. I mean, sometimes working under him, it can be tedious because he is relentless on video analysis, the amount of information that he gives players about opposition players, about how he wants to play, little things that he's thinking about. It can be difficult at times. Sid knows that as well. We were accustomed to leaving at 12:30, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, where he was constantly trying to get information to players, double sessions, video sessions, and Falkirk are reaping the rewards of that. And that comes down to the players buying into that as well. So, I mean, they can take huge credit from the way they played today, and they just need to take that into the full season in the Championship.
What do we make of the draw then? Obviously Celtic up against Aberdeen, who are 11 from 11 this season. Good win at home to Spartans, pretty professional. Rangers playing Motherwell, a good win again at home to Dundee. Dundee side who've started the season well, and obviously Motherwell just edging out Dundee United on Friday night. So what do we make of the draw, Simon? It looks quite tasty.
Yeah, I think Celtic would have taken anybody. I think when you look at it, you automatically lean towards it being a Celtic Rangers final. But Aberdeen and Motherwell obviously have a say in that. Aberdeen have been excellent at the start of this season, so it's two good ties. And when you're that close, it's a great opportunity to get to a final again. But it certainly looks like two attractive ties. But I would lean. I'd be boring and lean towards it looking like a Celtic Rangers final.
Do you concur, Ryan? I mean, Celtic Rangers final, I mean, that's what most people pick. It's obviously what the odds would be in that favour. But, do you fancy one of the outsiders, so to speak?
Aberdeen Motherwell final.
You get good odds on that.
I think Celtic are on a different level in Scotland just now. I think Aberdeen have done great to start the season. They'll be hoping that they can keep that up. And I'm sure in the form they're in just now, they'll be relishing playing Celtic. It'll be a good test for them. The same for Motherwell, mate. I think when Motherwell play well, they can be a handful for anyone.
Lennon Miller, the designated penalty taker. Young man taking on the responsibility. His dad Lee's just across to the left in the main stand here. He's seen his boy score some good goals already in his fledgling career. He might not score a bigger one than this if he can convert. Miller scores! And Motherwell surely now on the brink of a place in the semi-final of the League Cup.
It's a semi-final. We've been involved, me and Sid have been involved in semi-finals where anything can happen. It's cup games. I would imagine Celtic will be in the final, but I do have a sneaking feeling that Motherwell could pose a problem for Rangers.
Yeah, they posed a few problems to them at Hampden earlier in the season. In that league game, there'll be a few more Motherwell fans there this time. Obviously, that's what the hope will be, a neutral venue as Rangers back at Ibrox. I just wonder, Ryan, how significant it was for Rangers to be back at Ibrox at the weekend. Obviously, after a bit of a bruising start to the season, a good 3-0 win at home to Dundee. Desser's on the score sheet with a couple. I suppose they just need to get back winning games and try and build up some momentum and make sure that gap in the league at least doesn't get any further, and then hopefully they can progress further in the cups as well.
Yeah, I think it's crazy saying this, but I think Rangers are at a situation and a stage just now where they can't even look at Celtic. I think they really just need to look at getting back to Ibrox like they did at the weekend and winning and just getting their feet back on the ground. I think, the stuff behind the scenes certainly isn't helping. That mess coming round again, and obviously there's all the mumblings behind the scenes financially. I think for the players and for the management staff, it would just be, and the fans especially, just getting back to Ibrox and getting back home. And right now, for me, Rangers just need to try and chip off game after game and try and build up some momentum. The fact that Celtic are doing as well as what they are domestically, how well they've done during the week in the Champions League, I genuinely don't even think Rangers can look at Celtic just now. And usually, that's crazy saying that, because it's usually Rangers are looking at Celtic are looking at Rangers. I think Rangers have just got to be in their own wee bubble and just try and chip off game at a time.
Yeah, time is beating us, but Simon, I want to give you the last word, because someone needs to rave about those Nicky Clark free kicks. Point in the end for St Johnstone, they'll feel it should have been it should have been all three, given what Nicky Clark did to put them 3-1 up. But just a word on those two moments of brilliance and the technique on show before we wrap up.
Yeah, terrific. As I said at the top of the show there, they would have been the moments for me up until today. Excellent strikes, both of them.
And it's Nicky Clark again. He has done it again. That is utterly amazing from Nicky Clark. Not one, but two brilliant free kicks.
Very rare that you see somebody step up in the same game and score 2 free kicks. But I listened to Andy Kirk after it saying that it felt like a defeat almost, although there's 2 ways to look at it. If you've got up there saying, right, we'll come away with a point, maybe they would have accepted, but the fact that they went 3-1 up and were pegged back will probably be a wee bit disappointing for me and Steve Rowe's old club. We played many moons ago together. But yeah, Nicky Clark still scoring goals, experience in that league, and 2 wonderful strikes.
Yeah, still doing it. Absolutely bonkers game, and credit to Ross County as well for battling back. A big point for them in Dingwall in the end. Right, time to wrap things up. But many thanks to Simon Donnelly and Ryan Stevenson, and thank you for listening. Remember, we'll be here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every weekday morning, so make sure you don't miss out. Just subscribe on BBC Sounds or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks so much for listening. Have a good week. It's bye for now.
This is the shocking moment English football has been dreading.
My name is Moses Swabu, and I used to be a professional footballer, but then I got in deep with organised crime and became a match fixer operating in the English League.
A match-fixing investigator has highlighted 2 matches he says appear to have suspicious betting patterns.
How honest are you going to be with me?
This is 100%. Join me for Sports Strangers Crimes presents Confessions of a Match Fixer. Listen on BBC Sounds.